Yeah, I mean, honestly, if she doesn't show up in the next 10, 15 minutes, we're probably just going to call this one a forfeit. So,
Yeah, that's okay. If anybody else wants to debate this, I'm fine as well. I'm good either way.
I mean, if you really want me to, depending on your stance, I might press you on a few questions, but that's as far as this is going to go.
Yeah, no problem.
So, actually, you know what? While we're waiting, let's do that, actually. So, first of all, can I ask what your opinion on this topic is? I'd like to hear it in detail.
Okay. If you want to hear it in detail, I can do like a sort of opening.
Yeah, go on ahead.
Okay. So if we're talking about peer pressure, there are two like forces in place. One force is that of the teens pressuring you into doing something. And the other force I would call is your consciousness, your reasoning, or maybe you have like a, a more like legal reason to not engage in certain activities. No, or maybe you're not fine with it. Because that's what peer pressure is, right? You don't have peer pressure if you are agreeing to do something or if there isn't an outside force to it. So basically you have two of these forces containing each other. And if your your personal action, your consciousness, is weaker than the force attributed to it, then you have peer pressure. Now, what this means is that if you have, and I think that this should not clear teens from their responsibility. I think you could view it as, for example, a homeless man stealing food. You know, there are outside pressures, and he really doesn't like stealing, but he has to do it to survive, or he sees it as the only reasonable way to do so. Even though he is forced in that position, we as a society should make sure that people will not engage in the crime. We should deter it from happening, right? We should prevent it, and this is one of the mechanisms that enforces it. Second, if you have peer pressure from uh, um, from outside, and you think, oh, if I have this force, if I have this pressure, if I have this that's working against me, but I don't have any consequences, that lowers the bar for them to say, okay, I'm going to engage in it anyway. So it works as a deterrent, and I think that it also works as a sort of way of rehabilitating someone. Because if you get punished for it, if you have like a fine handed to you or some rehabilitation, if you have mental issues or something, then you can work with that within that system and to say, hey, okay, I am poor and I have done this, or maybe I have like a mental disease, and then you should have an institution that can work with you and then rehabilitate you into society so you won't commit crimes anymore or you won't engage in actions that can be seen as hostile or bad for the society as a whole.
Okay, yeah, I think I see where you're coming from here, as a matter of fact. I definitely understand where this is coming from. You're basically making the argument by giving me an analogy of a homeless man who might not want to steal, but is going to steal in order to keep themselves, alive slash healthy. And the same sort of thing applies to literal children because they're in a very vulnerable state, and thus they're easily influenced to their peers surrounding them and will often pertain to actions that their peers engage in. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah.
All right, I'm just making sure. Okay, what other questions can I press on?
Well, I can put on top something else, we as a
Yeah, you can
society.
always add on more. I mean, this is more of a discussion at this point.
Yeah, okay. So another argument, like I really like that you say like children. When I'm thinking more about teenagers. Like with children, we regard them as like less conscious. We regard them as like less capable of making well-informed decisions. While with teenagers, we are more lenient. There's a certain expectation that we have of them. We have the expectation, for example, of a 2-year-old that they get brought by their mother to some sort of school or shit. Well, if we have like the same expectation for like a 12-year-old, we expect themselves to bring them to school, to bring them time. However, teenagers, of course, don't have like a fully say in everything they do. However, I do think that that we as a society view them as people that have like consciousness that can make informed decisions. That we should extend this also to the peer pressure example. We often, of course, we don't often give them all credit for their consciousness and for their like reasonable things or unreasonable things that they do. However, there is more of like an expectation of them, and I think not budging to peer pressure, to knowing what's right and what's wrong, even though it puts you in a fucked up situation, which can happen in peer pressure, I think that they should still be able to say, I am doing something wrong and I'm going to endure the consequences if I continue doing this.
Yes, but do you think that there's an arbitrary point eventually where someone no longer engages in a behavior for self perseverance, but instead they're engaging in behavior because even if it's wrong, they know they can get away with it without any relative consequences for their actions?
So, could you repeat that again? Like, what kind of situation are
Do
you
you
thinking
think
of?
there is ever an arbitrary point, and I think a lot of people would draw an arbitrary line eventually, where someone is no longer engaging in a behavior or action for self preservation or pressure purposes, but are doing it because they can know that they can get away with that behavior, without any consequences?
Oh, yeah, so that's why I think, of course, that we should hold them responsible, hold them accountable.
Oh, there they are. There they are. Okay, we're good to get started then. Hello there. I was just talking yeah, with the links. Is that correct?
Zerlings. Yeah, Zerlings. Hi.
Before we got started, how you doing today? It's fine. I'll give you a minute to set up your stuff. It's all good.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty excited about this. You know, it's like an official debate tournament. Kind of like it.
Well, here's the thing. This is more of a test run, if anything. What I'm doing is I'm basically just doing this to increase user engagement on the server, and if it works out well, then we'll make this a regular occurrence or a more formal sort of ordeal. But as of this moment, this is more of a test run to see the viability for such a thing on this server.
No, Rosalind, we can hear you.
Yeah, sorry, we can't actually hear you. So, like I said, I'll give you another minute to figure everything out. We still got time. I mean, as long as this only lasts a little of an hour, oh yeah, a little over an hour, we still got plenty of time.
Everything okay, Ben?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for Rosalin to fix their microphone before we get started.
Yeah, take your time, Rosa. All right, I'm going to jump back into the audience.
Yeah, sounds good.
How about now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
There we go. That was being stupid. Sorry about that. I thought we were doing this at 2 o'clock.
Wait, it is 2 p.m.
Oh,
Evening?
my bad.
Wait,
Wrong
yes,
time zone.
yeah, I'm sorry. That was definitely the wrong time zone. I'm so sorry.
Oh, you're fine. Hold on a second. Still kind of getting ready. I just saw the message. I was like, oh crap.
No, you're fine. Don't worry about it too much. Yeah, let me know when you're ready, and I'll give a quick introduction, and we'll just officially start.
Okay. Let's see here.
Gathering sources or something.
Yeah, I just had to look for my phone for a second. I sat down somewhere. There it is. All right, I guess I'm ready.
All right, everyone, welcome. This is the first debate of today, Sunday, August 28th, and today we are going to be debating on whether or not peer pressure should absolve teen delinquency. Now, with that being said, this debate will start with an introduction from Rosalyn and Sebelinks, as well as a discussion portion, and then it will end with a conclusion before we move on to the debate at 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. So, which one of you would like to give their introduction first?
Rosalind, you can go first.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Rosalin, you've got a minute here if you want to give a quick overview of your opinion on the subject matter, as well as your takes on anything related to the subject.
All right. Well, first off, I'm going with the side of that you kids should not be punished for being pressured into doing something. Mostly for the fact that us like humans in general are very social creatures, so we're easily swayed by other humans, and that's about like the extent I'm gonna get into it because I have a lot of things I want to get into. I want to get into it when we actually start the debate.
All right, so Zabalinx, you have a minute now to give a quick overview or introduction yourself then.
All right. I think they should be responsible for the things they engage with. In almost any other situation, be acknowledged that there are situations people in that are not ideal, and if they commit crime because of their situations, they should still be punished in some sort of way, like fined or maybe some rehabilitative matters. I don't think that's all too bad, and I think that's the way to go about it. But there needs to be something, a sort of punishment or a sort of consequence to their actions.
All right, so if that was your introduction, we are going to be moving on to the discussion portion of the debate. That was rather quick, so you guys will have more time for the discussion portion. How the discussion portion works is each of you can propose or bring up a topic related to the subject matter. Uninterrupted, I expect each of you to go one at a time and not overtalk each other. I will only interrupt when I have either a vital question I would like to uh, ask a specific person in this debate, or when you start to talk over each other. Otherwise, the floor is open and you're free to start engaging.
All right.
I guess I'll start. Let's just start by really getting a feeling of what people mean when they say peer pressure. I see it more as the pressure to conform to what others are doing can be powerful and hard to resist. A person might feel the pressure to do something that just because others are doing it or say they are, mostly for the fact that we all want to fit in, right? We all know that. We all want to fit in. We don't want to be outcasted or shamed for not being like the whole. And that's where I really believe the definition of peer pressure is. And on that matter, since sorry about this. I'm still all new to this. Um, let's see here. Since we all know that humans in turn are very social creatures, that we need to fit in with our peers and with everyone around us. As a kid, typically being the age around 12 to 19 years old, they're a little bit more vulnerable to that because they're still developing, they're still finding their place in life. And so their viewpoints and things can be easily shifted by the ones around them. So, if I'm understanding correctly, what you're saying is that you think that how do I put this into words? Hmm. Repeat that one more time for me, please. 1 second. Is it just me or are you guys having static feedback?
It might just be you actually. I'm not having any problems, at least noticeably at this point.
Okay, because on mine it's like static and it's cutting in and out. 1 second.
Yeah, if you want to adjust your microphone settings, I'll give you a minute. Just let me know when you've played around with your settings, and we'll continue.
All right, we'll do. I have to roll with that because I'm not really finding a quick solution to fix it.
All right, then I guess we'll continue.
All right. Well, you said you don't believe, just because we're all humans and we need food to survive, they should be able to steal it, correct?
Yeah, if you have, yeah, if someone needs food, then you aren't allowed to steal it.
Then if that's the case, why aren't we doing something to fix that? Because if it's all a basic necessity, just like the air we breathe, everyone should have access to it and there should be no need to steal from it. Because I looked through a study and let's see here, where is it at?
I mean, if you have a study you'd like to post, you can also go over to the event stage chat, and then post it in there as well. Because how do I say this? Studies are actually a really good thing to post in these kind of events as well, because it definitely helps give people information to feed off of. And I don't think I've seen enough of that, honestly, since we started.
All right, you said post it in the event stage?
Yeah, in the event stage chat, yes.
I found this article here about the most common juvenile crimes, and it shows, and they've been saying the most common one is larceny, which is otherwise known as stealing. So why should someone face a kid, more or less, face such a time in jail, all because little Timmy convinced them that he should steal the candy bar from the gas station?
Yeah, okay. Sevalence, do you have a response?
Could you repeat again what you said? I'm sorry, I was reading chat. My apologies.
That's fine. Or you're good. We were talking. You were saying how food is a necessary thing, and you don't think people should steal it. Well, as most of us know, and here I'll put another study that I sourced that I found that said where is it at? Here it is. It's from stopmedicalabuse.org. They were saying how they ran a wow, 1 second, let me post this real quick before I continue talking. In a Temple University study addressing the relationship between age and resistance to peer pressure, researchers found that children are most vulnerable to peer pressure between the ages of 10 and 14. The study suggested that during this time, adolescents are choosing to be less dependent on their parents in favor of dependence on friends. However, fear of total independence and fear of rejection from group bolsters the need for total conformity. After the age of 14, teens are in a crucial period to become more firm in their beliefs. Having that sense of identity migrates the need to conform to the crowd. In a similar study, researchers at the University of Virginia assessed how peer and financial relationships predicted adolescent vulnerability to peer pressure. This includes analyzing adolescent independence within a family, popularity of friends within an adolescent's peer group, and the strength of social skills required to avoid negative influence. Findings suggest that all of these factors are involved in the peer influence process. In fact, results suggested that merely exposure to risky behaviors such as substance abuse and made adolescents more likely to engage. Furthermore, adolescents who lack support in their relationships with their mothers or more susceptible to peer pressure. So with that being said, let's say you have a family. Parents aren't the greatest. They're being neglected, and they don't get what they need from home. Kid finds a group of friends who he believes or she believes to be someone who wants their best interest and cares about them more than their families. If that's the case, wouldn't they listen to more what their friends said than what their parents had to say?
Yeah, yeah, I fully agree with what you say. However, this argument is not about like uh, um, it's not about how people get in that situation. It's about if that situation arises, what should we do with that? And I'm completely in favor of prevention. Don't get me wrong. I of course want people to have food, and of course want people to be prevented to fall into the trap of peer pressure. However, when that happens, there should be consequences for their actions.
Hmm. Well, see, I feel like it should all depend on what's going on. Let's say, for example, like I just said, the kid doesn't have a good home life.
Hmm.
Well, if that's the case, it would be very easy for them to listen to what others have to say, making them more vulnerable to suggestion. I believe in that situation, it's not a 100% the kid's decision. So therefore, why should they face the consequences of what they're made to believe to be the right thing?
Well, but that logic, you can say everybody is a consequence of every environment they're in. Therefore, we can never say that somebody should get a punishment because everybody's a product of their environment. It obfuscates how we as a society have decided what we do and what we don't allow.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's correct to some degree. But at the same time, we kind of already do that. Look at I don't know, this is an extreme example, but people who commit violent murders, what's the first thing we look at when they commit those?
Mental illness, I'd say.
Yeah, their motive, their mental illness. If it was traced back to mental illness, usually if it can be proved that they are in the right state of mind to consciously make that decision, they don't get thrown in prison. They usually go, to a hospital or under care of somebody else. Why don't we put that same logic onto these kids? If they're having a bad home life and they're easily susceptible to people around them, then who's to say they were in the right state of mind to make that decision consciously?
I fully agree. If there should be a punishment of them being pressured into committing a crime or doing some sort of harassment, they should be rehabilitated or they should get some fine or some deterrence or at least some way that they won't do these things again. However, I would say that that is a sort of consequence of their actions. It is not an absolvement of their crime. It is acknowledging what they did, acknowledging the situation they're in, and trying to repair it to prevent it.
I'm not sure where you come from, but I know I'm here. I live in America. That's the main problem that we have. We don't usually try to rehabilitate people. We just throw them in prison and call it a day. That's why we have overcrowded prisons and things like that. I'm not sure if they try to rehabilitate people where you're coming from, but that's from my side, my viewpoint. That's why I feel like, at least here in America, they should just be thrown in prison for that.
Yeah, you can say that because if you think that they'll just get thrown in prison, then I can see that happening, all right? But that's an issue with the prison system. That's not an issue with teens being peer pressured into a situation which led to illegal activities or crimes.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. The the main problem I'm seeing is that 9 times out of 10, they it's seen as the same thing as other crimes. Let's say you got Timmy who's stole or hit someone because their friends, convinced them to. But then you got Josh over here who just decided, I just don't like this person. Let me beat the crap out of them. Why are we holding these two same people to the same standard? This one on the left, Josh, full well knew what he was doing and wanted to do it. And it was decision made by himself, while Timmy, on the other hand, was coerced into doing it
Those are
and was made
different.
to believe if he didn't do it, something bad would happen.
These are completely different situations. In court cases, as far as I understand, they do look at the reasoning why somebody did something and they account for that situation to give more or less time. That's how I understand it. If this is not the case, then I'll reject that point. But I think you could say, for example, peer pressure is one of those points where you can say, okay, you were not on this alone, you were clearly forced into this, however, you still did this. Therefore, I'll give you less time than Josh, the killer, who just wanted to go murder. I think those two are different situations and should be treated differently. But it doesn't mean complete absolution from the crimes they commit. Because I'm sorry,
Yeah, I
I want to
mean,
go on this, but I really agree with everything you said before the people get peer pressured into the situation, and I agree with everything after people have committed a crime.
well then, what if? How do I put this into words? What would your ideal situation to resolve that problem? I guess that's a good way to put it.
All right.
Does that make any sense?
No, I get it, I get it. So I think we all agree here on that we should prevent it as much as possible. That's first. Second, if it does
Mm-hmm.
happen, we still need a system in place that deters them, that prevents them from engagement, that makes it much more harder for them to think, okay, I should do this. Because let's say they're peer pressured into a crime that they could go in for life in prison, it will be much harder to peer pressure somebody into it because the risks are way higher. I think we can find a balance in there. Um, but when eventually somebody does get peer pressured into a situation, and like the bar is just high enough that they will commit a crime or something, then we can arrest them or hand out a fine regarding of how big the crime is, and then we can say, okay, here are the situations that they're put in. How do we prevent this specific person from doing it? Like, what do you call it when criminals get out of jail? They have like a parole officer or something, like that. But then
Mm-hmm.
with like peer pressure and something, and like mental health guides and like psychologists and shit, to really get this issue resolved for this specific person.
Yeah. I guess I should have prefaced this with saying I'm not saying any crime done by peer pressure should be completely absolved. Now, there is exceptions to the rule. Like, obviously, if someone's convinced into murder, unless they themselves are under the threat of murder, which even that's kind of a gray standpoint, should face full punishment to the extent of more. I'm looking more towards the lighter crimes that are treated almost equally to the higher ones, if that makes any sense. Because,
I
like I
get
said,
it.
I mean, most crimes committed by juveniles are larceny and assault, not assault with a deadly, but just simple assault. So those are the things we're really looking at here when it comes to peer pressure. We're not looking at like murder and things like that. Those are very small issues. How many times do people get away with just simple fighting in general?
Like just fighting, probably a lot of people.
Yeah, a lot of the time. Like, I mean, that's considered assault under the law. So if we can get two adults having a fist fight in the parking lot and they can both get away with it, no one gets in trouble, where's the logic applied to the kids who are getting pressured into doing those things?
Well, yeah, then the outcome would be the same if they don't get caught, right? Like if you commit a crime or if you fight willingly and you don't get caught or you're peer pressured into fighting and you don't get caught, well, the outcome would be the same, wouldn't it?
But I mean, that's not what we're saying here. 9 times out of 10, usually when there's a fight going on, somebody calls the police. Either it be one of the people involved, it be a bystander, someone calls the police. And with adults, you usually see them call the police, and then that's about it. The cops just slap them on the wrist, say, "Hey, don't do that," and go on about your day. But if we get two kids, one kid was pressured into fighting this other kid at school, parents of the kid that was fought decide they want to call and press charges, and they get punished worse than the adults that willingly fought each other. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but that's a more controlled environment, I would say. I get the situation and I get that there's some sort of disconnect, but I feel like I get that there may be an inconsistency there, but then this really hinges upon the parents calling a school. Like this is really in a controlled environment, there are constantly people guarding over these children, basically, making sure they don't kill each other and then they can go off like at 3 p.m. or something. That's all fine, but that's a completely different environment than if we have adults willingly fighting each other. I don't think
Yeah, I
you can
mean,
compare them.
yeah, good point. Yeah, I think I'll concede that because that now that you bring that up, that actually makes sense that way. So this is the problem I'm having here. Let's see here. I knew this was going to be a hard debate going into to begin with because I don't really have a really strong stance on this topic, and I know we were having a hard time finding topics that we were disagreeing on. I bet most of it's just hinging upon like I see it as kids are dumb, but they don't consent to things. They're easily influenced.
Hmm.
If that's the case, then why are they punished that way? If a kid can't go, if they, okay, wait, give myself 1 second.
Yeah, no
Um,
problem.
if they're not seen as mature enough to go buy a 6 pack or buy a pack of cigarettes or go hook up with their friends, why then are they seen mature enough to when things like fighting or stealing comes into play?
I think that we as society acknowledge that teenagers from a certain age have some sort of responsibilities, right? We can say that even though they aren't fully able to consent to everything there is, most of the things we expect them to do grants them responsibility, grants them like consciousness, grants them like I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but it's something in that direction. We grant them some. Oh fuck, what is it? I think it's responsibility. Let's say responsibility. We give them some responsibility. And in this
Hmm.
responsibility, we hope, or at least we assume that they are at least intelligent enough that they don't pick on fight with other children or with other teenagers. That they are at least intelligent enough to not commit crimes. Right? If they are, we have like there are systems in place for this. That if people are at a certain age, if people are at a certain age, that they can put on trial for that specific reason, right? We don't hold the parents anymore accountable. And at
Hmm.
that point, we can do the same with peer pressure, that they make at least some sort of informed decision to not engage with crime, to not engage with murder, to not engage with any of these things.
But I'm just having trouble finding where that line is. Where's the line drawn in the sand where it goes from being, oh, they know what they're doing enough not to do this, to being, oh, they don't know what they're doing enough not to not do it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, let's go with um, sexual relations. Um, one, let's say peer pressure. Someone's pressuring them doing it. And let's say, for example, here, I'm trying to think of a good example for this. I had one in my head, I lost it.
That's okay.
Oh, what was I saying? Um, So let's say here, you've got a kid who was convinced by his friends to send one of his female friends explicit photos of himself.
Mm-hmm.
The kid gets caught, most of the time gets away with it because they're seen as a kid. They don't know any better. But if that same kid goes and decides to sleep with someone older than them, they're then held, let's say if that other person, becomes pregnant, they're then seen as responsible enough to pay for that child. You see where I'm coming from? You got one side here saying they're not mature enough to make the decision, so they should get away with it, while the other side, it's saying, oh, they're mature enough to prevent that action from happening, so therefore they got to pay for the consequences of that action. You know what I'm saying? If we
Mm-hmm.
want to be equal here, then on both sides, the kid would have to pay for child support, and the kid should be punished for sharing explicit photos of minors on the phone. Or the other side of the coin, they're not held responsible for either of them. You get what I'm saying?
I
That's
don't
probably the
think
best.
I get what you're saying. I don't think it's that clear cut, to be honest. Like, we as a society has set the bar at 18 for like strictly like medical conditions or that sort of shit, you know. But I do think that it's like a very gray area on what we attribute them responsible for and what not. Because if we say like everybody below the age of 18 and everybody above the age of 18 have certain decisions to make, I think that's a really black and white image. I don't like it, especially when people are in their teens. It's incredibly difficult to pinpoint when somebody can make a coherent decision or can make a good decision or should be responsible for a certain type of action. Especially if we're talking about, for example, sexual engagement. That's a really, what do you call it? A really difficult topic to pin down on when somebody is ready of that age, when somebody is like fully developed to make such decisions. And I think it is very black and white to just pinpoint where it is. My concern is not where that line is. My concern is more, should they be held accountable if there is peer pressure? And I can see several situations where it would be like a gray area where some people would say, okay, for sexual assault, they are not responsible. It's the peer pressure. In another situation, I can see people argue, well, yeah, they are responsible. They should know what they're doing. But that's a very gray area, and I don't really argue for specifics. I don't really can, but that's my position on it.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, but if we like boil it down to the base essence of what it is, at the end of the day, it's just decisions. That's all it is. Either be what the decision was made, and most of the time, the decisions you make are going to be the risk and the rewards are usually going to balance themselves out pretty well. Whether it be the example we were going through before about sex relations and compared to stealing. In my opinion, the consequences and benefits of those two decisions are close to the same. Definitely when you're a kid that age. In that age and mindset, there if you're for it or against it, you're gonna hold the same kind of strong feelings about it. Say so there kind of has to be a line if we're gonna charge some and waive the charges of others, because we need to be able to decide what it is, if it was bad enough and for them to know what they are doing and get them charged for it, or if they didn't. Because without having a line or anything to go off of, you can't really make a call on it.
I may okay. I'll try to engage more and like see if we can get somewhere further than this because if we're talking about sexual assault or any of that sort of thing and stealing, I think that those are different situations because sexual assault, for example, is something that if you're a teen is pretty new. Like we get learned from like the age of 2, stealing is wrong, sharing is caring, that sort of shit. But sexual relationship, that often comes to play when you're maybe 12-year-old. I don't know specifically at what age you get taught sex at. And that could be difficult, especially when there are so much emotions involved and there's a lot of difficult social situations around it. So I would say maybe we can make a divide on that, right? Maybe we can say, okay, sexual relationship is something that maybe we can be more lenient on, and maybe on stealing something that should be like common sense to everybody, that then we should be more harsher on them if they get peer pressured into it.
But that just goes back to basically what I was saying. What you said, definitely when it comes to sexual relations, around the ages, let's say around 12 years old, when puberty tends to start, deals a lot with emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, that's what peer pressure is. It's manipulating you socially and emotionally to do what they want you to do. If they're to the point where they're too emotional to make a good decision when it comes to sexual things, where does that stand when it comes to non? Like, let's say Susan has a group of friends. What she is told, hey, if you don't go over here and kick this one guy, we're going to stop being friends with you and going to spread word about you to the point where you got to drop out of school. In that situation, in my opinion, that's borderline blackmail. When it comes to peer pressure, most of the time it's usually you're going to do what I want you to do, or this very, in your eyes, very big bad thing is going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Again,
You see cases. Oh, my
I'm
bad.
sorry. No, no, no.
One
Please
second.
continue.
You see cases where somebody gets blackmailed into doing something. In those situations, the person who did the blackmailing is going to face the harshest punishment. And usually the one that was blackmailed, if punished at all, it's going to be very minor. In those situations, why can't we apply those same situations to peer pressure cases?
I would agree. I think that uh, um, if there are people who are peer pressuring someone into a situation which can be borderline uh, um, blackmailing, I think there should be a punishment for them as well. But I don't think that completely absolves the crimes committed or the actions taken by the person who has been peer pressured into. And I want to touch on this as well. Again, even though it is blackmailing, even if the consequences of not engaging it are severe, I would still say that the situations that the person is finding themselves in does not absolve them from like legal consequences. It does lessen the punishment, and it does has an impact. Sorry, and it has an impact on the punishment that they get. However, I do not think it should completely be absolved.
Okay. Let's going along with the same example I just gave about the whole assault and the bike thing. In your opinion, if that situation happens, they get caught. Do you believe the girl who was pressured into uh, committing assault on the other girl, should she be charged with assault,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
should she face a lesser punishment?
yeah. Well, at least less, of course, lesser punishment. But there's still shield. But there's holy shit. I can speak for shit. There should still be some sort of punishment. I do not think people can just be absolved of a crime by being peer pressured or blackmailed into it. I truly understand that these people are in a difficult situation. However, I hope well, if okay, well, if you're blackmailed and peer pressure, they're not quite analogous. I'd say, if there are more severe consequences, then I would say maybe that can lead to absolvement. But I don't think if you're talking about peer pressure, that doesn't have to be like negative. Mostly, I'm speaking. I'm not really speaking out of experience here. But if you're being peer pressured, it's more of like a social punishment. It's not really like blackmailing like the mafia does or something. So I do think there could be a difference in that.
Well, yeah, the term blackmailing is pretty broad. It can go from just fear, threat of social outcast to murder. But how I feel in that situation, I believe that since they felt that their the consequences of not doing it were so much higher than doing it, I believe in that situation, the person who blackmailed them into committing that assault should be the one charged with assault and not the one who committed the act.
I think we can charge both of them. I listen. I agree, right? The people who are peer pressuring, the people who are blackmailing, should be punished as well. There is a clear pattern in what they're doing, but depending on how severe the blackmailing is, doesn't absolve them from committing the crime, even if they're pressured into it.
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, but if let's go with a little bit different and arguably more extreme example.
All right.
Let's say there is a situation where if you're being told that you are to beat this person close to death, or you and your family are going to be murdered. In that situation, if it comes out that you did it because of the fear of you and your family being killed, the person who made you do it would the one charged with murder. You'd be what was I about to say? You would be able to claim self-defense.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that argument. Again, like this is an extreme case, and I would say, yeah, then you can argue for absolvement. But I do think, just to be clear, I do think this is outside of the realm of outside of the realm of peer pressure.
If you get down to the nitty-gritty, it's close to the same thing. And not saying exactly because that would be a bold statement to make, but let's change the original example we went with. Let's say instead of being socially outcasted, they said, "Hey, you're gonna go beat up this smaller girl, or we're gonna all jump on you." There is which, and she chose to beat up the smaller girl over being beaten up by two or three other chicks. And in that situation, I believe the ones who threatened her to do the act should be the ones who face the punishment of said actions instead of the girl, because I mean it's basically the whole trolley car situation. Do you kill the one to save the three, or do you kill the three to save the one? I personally would rather hurt the one than being hurt by the three. Does that make any sense?
It sort of does, but I feel like the outcome is still like one wounded person.
But then wouldn't that be self-defense? Because then you're doing it so you yourself won't get hurt.
But is it self
You
okay, but is it then self-defense if you have to beat someone else up for it?
So that's where this is where it becomes tricky because
Just to be clear,
I don't
like
know.
then
Go ahead.
just to be clear, so then I think we both agree, right? Because I want to really go back to the question because I'm interested in philosophy, I'm interested in ethics, and I would love to talk down on this. But if we're trying to stay on topic here, you do think that do you think there should be no punishment at all or no consequence at all for the person who has been pressured into a situation like this?
To be all fairness and all truth, I can't wholly say that they should not be punished at all or they should be punished at all. I feel like it's more a case by case basis, but I will myself swing closer towards the side of not being punished, that there's more chances where they shouldn't be punished than they should be.
I can agree
But
to that.
I can't take a firm stance on the fact that everybody should be waived punishment because of peer pressure, because then it was stopping John from saying, "Oh, so and so told me to do it, so yeah."
Exactly. Like that's what I mean with like the deterrence argument, right? Like if you set some sort of system up, if people are being punished for something, then it will be less likely to engage in. And I really get like I think we both agree on what should happen before with the prevention. I think we should agree. I think we agree on what should happen afterwards. If it does find out that there are people who are pressuring someone into it or blackmailing into it, that they should get punishment. Or if we have someone who is pressed into a situation, should therefore get like rehabilitation or something else that can help them up so they won't fall back into the situation. I think we agree on all of this, and the only thing I really want you to say right now is yes, I can imagine a situation where if somebody is being peer pressured into, that they also have a responsibility, or at least they should have some sort of punishment or some sort of fine or whatever because they did it anyway.
Honestly, yeah, I'll rightfully concede that. I believe that yes, there are situations where they should face punishment because what they did, they knew what they were doing was wrong.
Great. And again,
Right.
I fully agree with you as well, right? Like they should not get as they should not get an equal punishment as somebody who did it on their complete own volition without any outside influence, right?
Yeah.
I really think that's right. I really do believe that, right? Like if somebody is stealing a store because they wanted a pack of cigarettes or something to steal for their mom, or I don't know, or if somebody just steals like 5 apples because they're starving, I think those are completely different situations and should be treated differently. However, there should still be a punishment nonetheless. And I think that's basically all we agree on.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like really we both agree on the same things.
Yeah, like this is the
Which I,
issue. This is the issue we had before. Like you're a socialist,
yeah,
I'm a socialist. We agree on everything from front to back. And if this is just
yeah.
like this small issue, I think really there isn't much we disagree on. And I don't think we've disagreed more than that, basically.
Yeah, that's what was the problem I had going into this debate, 'cause when we were talking, like, I know this is gonna be difficult because like I said, I didn't firmly stand on anything, so being able to really form an argument in my favor would be kind of hard. And we seem to share the same thought process, but for the most part, yeah, I mean, there are situations that I believe that they should face punishment. Now, I will always stand on the fact that I believe that the person who is peer pressuring should always face the harsher punishment.
Yeah, of course. I agree. The people who peer pressure should also get like some sort of punishment. I fully agree. I 100% agree.
Uh,
Actually, now that you mention it, we're kind of drawing to a close here. Just as you said that, we're starting to run out of time. I mean, if you guys have any concluding thoughts or any concluding comments you'd like to make before I open up to a question or two, you're free to do so. I'm just kind of giving you guys a general warning here.
oh, I mean, I got nothing else to add.
Yeah, I'm all good as well. I don't think we don't disagree. So bring up a next topic we may disagree on. It will be difficult. Uh,
I mean, I will say this, Rosalin. I would like to talk to you more about this topic a little later, just out of the conversation, honestly,
All right.
because it sounds to me like a lot of the comments you were making there in regards to how do I say this? Societal reactions in America. It reminds me a lot of the kind of anecdotal arguments I hear from people who say, well, I saw this happen to kids when I was growing up, and this is obviously a societal ill if it keeps happening to people. If that makes any sense.
Uh, Repeat that last part you cut out.
I did. Oh, okay. Okay then. Well, obviously, it's a society that obviously it's a societal issue, even if it is anecdotal. If it keeps happening to people generation after generation.
Hmm. But yeah, no, like I'll be willing to talk about that because I mean, what you said is mostly true. A lot of it is anecdotal, but that's because now
Well,
let's
I'm
be
saying
real
that's
here.
because it's
I'm
reality. It's obviously by the way you
yeah,
described it, something that you've seen happen is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like
I mean,
those examples
I've
were
seen it.
so specific that I guarantee you've seen it happen at least once in your life, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I get you. I get you.
So how do you want to finish this? Should we like do closing statements for like a minute or two, and then like get the Q&A, or what's your
Yeah, you
schedule?
guys can give a concluding statement if you want, and I don't know if there'll be any questions, but I'll offer, before we end or before we shut down the conversation altogether.
We'll let you go first with your closing statement.
All right. Over this debate, I think I've made it pretty clear that there should be a consequence. What that consequence entails, how people get up in there in the first place, was irrelevant to me, and I agree with Rosalin again on everything that should be done previously and afterwards, and everything surrounding it. And I think I've proven my case that yes, if teens find themselves in a situation where they have been peer pressured into committing a crime of some sort of harassment, they should be punished. They should be punished less than like somebody who willingly commits these crimes. And I think I have defended my position decently. I think we've both agreed to this situation eventually. I really like
Yeah.
the date. I want to thank Bulworth, Alimony, Ben. I want to thank all the viewers, and that's my conclusion.
All right. Let's see here. It's been a while since I've done a conclusion, so I need to figure out how to do this again. I would say, yeah, I've kind of see exactly where you're coming from, where it's very case by case, but at the end of the day, there's some sort of punishment. I could see that fact that there should be some sort of punishment, whether it be for the extent that will have to go depending on the case. So at the end of the day, I guess, yeah, I agree with you most of the part, and thank you for having this talk with me, and thanks for everyone for listening. And yeah, I mean, I guess that's it.
Anyways, before we wrap things up here, does anyone here have any questions? You're free to raise your hand if you do. I'll just give everyone a minute here before I officially close the event.
Damn, only 3 listeners. It was really wild. Like 2 days ago, I saw like a lot of people in here.
I don't. Yeah, actually, no. The one with Faust and Ali, that one was had 22 concurrent people in this audience at one point.
Sheesh, that's a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Must have been like a
Oh,
Saturday
I've
or
learned I might have.
something.
oh, it was an interesting conversation. It's a shame I just wasn't there to hear the entire thing. Well, then I guess we're just going to go on ahead and wrap things up. You guys are free to go on ahead and leave if you really want to. Then.
All right.
Yeah,
Thanks for having this talk, even though
Yep.
yeah.
I kind of know it's going to this to lose an argument, but yeah. Maybe we'll
All right.
find a better topic to go over next time.
Yeah, sounds good.
And I'll destroy you again. No, just kidding, just kidding.
It was nice talking to you. You guys take care.
Yeah,
Yep,
take
take care,
care.
everyone.
See you later.
See you around.
See you.
Ah, crap. Ah, fuck. Never mind. Well, it was a good debate. I think I made my points well. Oh crap! I still need to ask for like the beginning of the debate because at the first period I didn't recognize that my sound was off. So I'll make sure I get the first part as well. So you can all have the full experience. If it's not the case, just get used to it that the audio is pretty fucked up in the beginning. Okay. Anyways, hope you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, message me or like email me if you disagree with something I said, if you disagree with anything I've said ever, which would probably be often, but if you want to debate, if you want to come on, schedule it with me and we'll get it done, okay? We'll get it done. Okay. Anyway, see you later.